if you were to look to a country that has been through, a populist government, or at least finally rejected a populism and fought back against populist politics, um, you would think maybe Italy. No, Italy's not there yet. Italy's kind of strange. That what has happened is they've had ever more right-wing populist governments. Except what has happened is when that right-wing populist government has failed, unlike in Poland where they've completely thrown them out, what happens is another right-wing populist group pops up and says, "Well, actually, those guys weren't right-wing and populist enough. We are the true ones." And this is how you get on to George Maloney being the I think great granddaughter of Mussolini, being potentially in charge or being in charge of Italy right now. They're not there yet, but I think they're getting there slowly but surely. At least the Italians do seem to be learning their lesson that these populist party, these populist politicians, haven't been all they've really cracked up to be. Another perfect example, Hungary. If you've been watching what's going on in Hungary recently, something very, very interesting going on there. Looks like that Viktor Orban's popularity has taken an absolute nosedive. Potentially, he might not be in power too much longer. Because guess what? People of Hungary have finally realized, oh, actually, this populist Orban, he's been saying, promising all these things, hasn't delivered on them, gone to the next big thing. Turns out not actually very good at, at running a country. Who would have guessed? So there are a couple of countries that I think getting there. So that surely, like I say, I think Hungary is probably going to be the next big one once Orban goes, because oh boy, there will be a lot of corruption trials. There will be a lot of corruption trials after Orban's gone. We can, if you look at stuff that's going on in Poland as well, probably very much likely as well. So before we have a look at this article about Poland, about what particularly the UK can learn from Poland as well, because I think this is quite important. Please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button down below. There are links to my Patreon page, the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can Buy Me Coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So over we go to the newsagents who did this on this, because I think this is really, really good. They did a full interview with Poland's foreign affairs minister, but this was like the article mentions some of this stuff that they talked with them about. Like I say, go watch the full interview. I think it's well worth giving it a watch. Poland, I think we should be really learning a lot, or at least Starmer and Labour should be learning a lot about how to combat populist politics on this. But it is definitely worth doing it. So if you don't know what's been happening in Poland, it's worth some learning about it. So what happened in Poland? So of course, Poland is a country that does know one or two things about populist politics. Its Law and Justice Party, a populist right-wing group, are most recently in power from 2015 to 2023. So again, a long time in power, but that's what it takes. That's what it takes for people to realize, oh, actually, they're not delivering on these things. Because into the first term, they can sort of get away with it. They can say, oh, well, our policies haven't, come to fruition yet. They haven't filtered through yet. It tends to be the third term where these populist politicians really start to come into trouble, really start to have problems, because you've been in power at that moment a decade. People's lives still haven't improved. What did we elect you for? You haven't been fulfilling your promises. So the Law and Justice Party obviously promoted itself as a pro-family party, increasing leave for new parents, offering monthly payments for every child, banning most Sunday trade in order to get workers to spend more time with their families. But it also supported countrywide abortion bans and proposed a ban on IVF fertilization, and stood against comprehensive sex education for young people. The leader, Jarosław Kaczyński, was a fiercely anti-LGBTQ and banned pride marches, and also said that affirming homosexuality would result in the downfall of civilization. I don't see how that would result in the downfall of civilization, but there you go. Um, some Polish towns, of course, established themselves as anti-LGBT free zones with the encouragement of the populist government. But it was its stance on immigration which will perhaps obviously ring true with anyone worried about the rise of populist policies here in the US under Trump and, of course, in the UK with the rise of Reform UK. Kalashov wanted an absolute total ban on Poland accepting refugees, as he believed that they would, quote, bring infectious diseases into the country. Other PSI members referred to it as a Muslim invasion of Europe and claimed that the government was proud to have prevented building mosques in the country. However, Radoslaw Salvish, Poland's foreign minister and affairs, and of course Donald Tusk's chief civic platform government, told the newsagent's podcast that these populist politicians never actually deliver on their promises. They usually make you poorer, and they certainly create mayhem, he said. You have to really engage with the people. That is the only way. You have to do real politics. And he sees big similarities in what Poland has been through to now what is being faced in the UK and the US. Populists become popular when they latch onto an issue that the establishment has neglected, and it is actually the same issue in the United States, Britain, and in Poland, namely migration, he explains. A wise establishment takes the issue and solves it. Populists offer very simple solutions to very complex problems. Exactly. I can't reiterate how many times we've said this, and it has been true. Populists, they offer simple solution to very complex problems, or it's heavy rhetoric disguising bad policy. Look at the Rwanda policy. It was rhetoric that if we do this Rwanda policy, it's going to be amazing, it's going to be great, it's going to be wonderful. But the actual policy itself, as we said, if you did it, wouldn't work. It wouldn't act as a deterrent. And Rwanda was only going to accept like 200 people, despite how the Conservatives tried to say, "Oh no, they'll take more." Anyway, in of course 2024, under Tusk's rule, Poland of course strengthened its border with Belarus due to concerns over the high volume of refugees entering its country from places including Russia. Human Rights Watch does describe the military presence at the border as, of course, resulting in inhumane and illegal pushbacks, which is, of course, denying people fleeing war and basic humanity. We have now, of course, built a barrier. We've now reformed our asylum laws so that people may not, of course, force their way into Poland to apply for asylum, Sorsky says. They have to at least wait on the other side, and then you can recover people's trust. He also believes that the biggest example offered of a simple solution to a complex problem was the UK Brexit campaign vote in 2016. He said the British public was for decades radically misled about how the EU actually works, and there was not enough pushback from politicians to correct the record. People got the impression that Brexit would solve your migration problem, but inward migration is even bigger than before. Inward migration may be, but in terms of people from Poland, things are now moving in the other direction. Many Polish people who are in the UK are now actually turning home, Swarovski says. The country wants its Poles back. There are now 700,000 estimated Polish people living in the UK, a drop from the million that were living here before the change in government. But Poland is successful. Economically, our wages have risen drastically over the last 20 years. And again, he says it's true. Poland has been a huge economic success story. Huge economic success story. And that's how the Peace and Justice Party got away with it for so long, because they managed to get, or at least inherit, a country with a growing economy that was developing its industries, developing all its stuff, and was growing economically. And they did very little to actually interfere with that. Very little to interfere. They just did everything else around it. And that's how they managed to sort of stay in power, I believe, for so long. He says, of course, economic migrants have generally come to expect double the wages in countries that they choose to obviously settle in, but that is no longer possible for Polish people in the UK. He said the populists messed up Poland's relationship with the EU, which he says has now had to be fixed, and the country has just been given a 40 billion euro transfer, which will now invest in roads, schools, and hospitals. And then he goes on to talk about Elon Musk. And of course, 2024, the biggest threat to UK politics, is source believes, is the possibility of Elon Musk flooding the bank balance of Reform UK with tens of millions in order to exert his influence on British politics, the same way he has in America. And if you want an example of that, just look at the past couple of weeks. Well, like he and the Republican Party, pretty much, Musk has burnt his bridges doing that. Oh, he has burnt his bridges. And not only that, but you also saw a Republican government cut cancer treatment, like research into children's cancer treatment. How well do you think that's going to go in the long term? It's not going to go down very well at all when people realize that. Oh, the the US government was funding that. Well, why aren't they continuing to fund that? That doesn't make any sense. Um, He said, you have to, of course, bring back the limits. This kind of big money in politics is not good for democracy. As well, of course, they're trying to limit the direct finance input from overseas influence. He also says that algorithms of social media networks, and again, something leveraged by Musk on Twitter during the US election, must also be regulated. The algorithms are, of course, designed to keep us engaged, and what keeps us engaged is anger. So instead of simulating civilized debate, they stimulate anger and division, he says. Again, very true. People have talked about that numerous times. There's the behavioral scientists have looked at it, and when they've given feeds like full of like reasonable, happy, fun stuff, and then they put like one anger post and they fixate on that anger post. So yeah, absolutely. That is just human behavior. But yeah, the algorithms do feed that. But he continues to say humanity's last hope is, of course, the European Parliament, because it is not yet captured, of course, by big tech. Whatever is illegal in the analog world should be illegal in the digital world too. The fact that it's digital shouldn't give you immunity from the law of the land. He cites legal action currently going on in Brazil, where Twitter has now been banned, and the arrest in France of Telegram owner for breaking EU laws over the recent Austrian ban on social media for access under 16s is at least a first step in this regulation. There is now no difference between the tech billionaires and the media owners of and the next president. Again, very, very true. But yeah, I go give that podcast a full listen. I think it's very, very good. It's why I sort of wanted to cover these things. I think a lot of these are very, very true. Very, very true indeed. And of course, still, Elon Musk looks like probably he will be making a tussle with the EU probably as well next year. I can guarantee you now, Elon is going to sort of go and mess with the EU. He's going to try and think he can get away with it. The EU is going to sort of push back on him, and then of course, who's he going to turn to? He's going to turn to Donald Trump. And that might be how the trade war starts, and then of course we'll be caught in the middle of it. And well, as I've always said, guess who we're going to end up siding with? It ain't going to be America. It ain't going to be America. Like I say, Typhoon Donald is going to push us back, push the good ship Britannia back into the EU port at last, or at least the beginnings of the sort of re-engagement on that. And like I say, Keir Starmer's done a lot to sort of rebuild that. And bear in mind, I want to point out, Foreign Minister Wright as well. Poland had to do a lot of re-engagement with not only the EU but other European countries as well when they finally threw them out, the Populist Party out. So it's been done before. This type of getting rid of populist governments. We'll have to see what happens from this, but I definitely think Poland is someone, not someone, but a place we should be learning from about how to deal with populist politics. Absolutely. And I would love to speak with someone from Poland who like focuses on their politics, just talk about like what has happened during 2015 up to that recent election, about how they got throughout. I know there's a ton of like stories that have gone on there. I know there's a ton of stories that have gone on there during that time. It would be fascinating to hear someone from Poland, have them on to talk about what's gone on. But of course, as always, thank you very much for watching. Don't worry, soon we'll be doing the Pony Club end of year wrap up as well for the Patreon members as well. So go join those down below. Links down below if you want to join that. You want to see that. Like I say, last year I think we went for about an hour, so it's probably going to be a quite long video as well. So as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.